Welcome into the Wanks FPL podcast presented by the Data Boys, Mac and myself. Yes, I'm wearing the banana this week. Rip, one fucking point. Nobody could have done any better for me. But we're back. We're here to talk Game Week 28 after a weird and feels like uneventful Game Week 27, even though that's not exactly what happened. But maybe that's just melancholy because we're all on basically like gray arrows. So seems like that's the vibe. But yeah, how are you doing?
I'm pretty mid. That's my review of the game week. No, I'm good. Strategically avoiding the thought of soccer for a variety of reasons until just now. But yeah, I agree. Largely gray arrow. Like there is some stuff that happened, but I don't feel like a lot of it was very impactful from an FPL standpoint. And so, well, maybe it was a good week on paper. I'm like not overly overjoyed about it.
I mean, the elephant in the room there is obviously Spurs, but I feel like if you want to turn your attention away from the Spurs potential relegation battle, something that did happen in the Prem is just that City are still 5 points back of Arsenal with a game in hand, and that is just lovely to see. Absolutely lovely to see.
They do it every season. They always have a mid-season slump. I right now could go pull articles from like every season that they've won the Prem, and in December they're like, "Is it over?" And then they just pull it out. Yeah. It's happening.
So I could see it. That's exciting. Arsenal are such a fun team to hate. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I think the relegation battle stuff is interesting. Not to pull wounds, but we've mentioned it a little bit. West Ham are just looking better. I think that should go into our accounts as FPL managers as well in terms of fixtures and players that we're going to pick and whatnot. We can touch on that a little later because obviously they play Liverpool this week, so it's somewhat relevant. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, on the topic of relegation, it's a little scary. The bookies odds are getting up to like 15% chance of relegation, and I'm like, okay, that's higher than I'd like to see, basically ever. With some of the fixtures we have coming up, I'm like, all right, it'll continue to maybe climb for a little bit. The only thing I can hope for is that Nottingham Forest on their fourth manager of the season just like just absolutely crash and burn.
Yeah, but that's the other thing is like this is definitely a question of like, was Liverpool just that bad or was Forest that good? But they looked solid. Obviously, they ended up losing, but they looked solid against Liverpool. So most of the first half, they dominated possession and chances. So it's just interesting. I think every single one of the relegation-ish teams is showing signs of life. And I think that, if anything, just speaks more to the Prem and how much parity there is. But I think before I felt a lot more confident in who was going to be relegated, and now it feels a lot more up in the air.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. I was calling out relegation targets at the beginning of the season in like episode 1 or 2, and little did I know it would be us.
Yeah, rip. Well, yeah, I think it's, again, that's definitely FPL relevant, but regardless, we can jump into how we're doing from an FPL perspective. Not much change this week. We all took small red arrows, all, I don't know what your guys' percentage drop was, but probably all less than 10. Really small, just basically a gray arrow. Weird week. Like in terms of threats that returned, it wasn't too many. For me, obviously, it was João Pedro. You guys went with the João Pedro captaincy. I went with Holland. So I think I don't think those evened out, but probably were relatively close. Yeah, just an odd one though, where it felt like I had a lot of blanks, but not, and dodged some threats, but just had just enough of threats that it didn't turn into a positive week. Arsenal conceding yet again is kind of I think for the but most of the engaged community, that's a big reason why people didn't probably have an excellent week, is because they continue to just not return, and everybody was doubled up from the double game week. So yeah, just kind of a melancholy game week. So I get feeling mid, but it's worth noting that all three of us independently decided to go early on some moves ahead of the 28 deadline. So we'll talk more about that, but going to the points I dropped. So yeah, the weekly hat race was so close. It was a separation of 2 points between you and me. You were the top scorer. I was, wait, did Sharp score top or was it you?
Who knows? It's 2 points between top and bottom. I genuinely don't even know who it was.
It was really close is the point. We're all not too far off. Wait, now that it was all. So yeah, you were 2 points ahead.
Nice.
Then
That's
Sharp,
great.
then me. It was 1 point that separated each of us.
I knew it. I just wanted to hear you say it.
regardless, hey, that keeps your March going. Sharp has got to be low-key shitting himself in first, but also, not that big of a game this week. So yet to be seen who makes it out on top. And he does have the wild card in hand.
He does.
But yeah, we can jump into it. I'll start with my lowest squad of the week. 43 points all out, coming from mostly like a lot of twos. So you see Raya obviously conceded, but got the save point. Gabrielle blanked and didn't do any sort of defconning. Arsenal won 4-1. They dominated most of the possession, so defcon wasn't really an opportunity. But Gabrielle didn't get involved in the action, and ultimately they concede. Gahey, Gahey's a tricky one, man, because I really brought him in thinking that he had a lot of goal threat, and it seems like as soon as I picked him up, he's incredibly deep. When I'm watching those City games, like he is a textbook center back, is hanging back, not getting involved in any sort of attacking play. And guess who is but my boy Nico O'Reilly that I dropped not too many weeks ago and is playing mid and scoring ridiculously now. So that's always fun. He didn't defcon either. James Hill continues to return. Pretty unbelievable. That was a very, very, very lucky clean sheet from Bournemouth. Got absolutely dominated in that game. But, James Hill comes up with the clean somehow. So we'll take that one. And then Declan Rice gets DEFCON, so he can do that consistently. Shout out to Sharp for Anderson and his consistent DEFCON. Rice is there as well. You got Bruno Fernandes doing jack fuck. I think it's funny. I was thinking back to like maybe midway through the season, Rob T posted a graphic with Bruno and said that he actually gets more points when he's playing in defense. But the narrative was, and I think we probably said on this podcast as well, like he's playing deep, he's not attacking as much, and that's why a lot of people didn't go there. And ironically, now that we're seeing him in this Carrick system where he's playing more attacking, his routes to points have dropped off, and he's either returning huge or blanking. So it is pretty funny, and I wonder if that makes him less of a captaincy option going forward, just because he has less ways to get points and less things to rely on. But Enzo blanks again. Had the best 4 fixtures you could possibly have and blanked in just about every one of them. Bumo gets another return. If he'd gotten like just anything more, I wouldn't be sitting in this uncomfortable ass hat. Holland gets an assist. Thiago blanks. Thank God I went early. Bowen to Thiago. Bowen got DEFCON. Thiago didn't. Bowen honestly looked pretty threatening too. So that
Bowen's a good player.
Yeah, I got lucky. And then Ekitike with another just point blank header that he hit right at the keeper, and it ended up going off of McAllister's ass and in. So exciting stuff. Harry Wilson on the bench as well. Just really, really good. But yeah, I think notably, I went early on that Bowen to Thiago. I didn't end up taking a hit to bring in Semenyo and captain him, thank God, because he blanked. But Bowen and West Ham in general looked really threatening. So that game was 3.27 expected goals from West Ham and 0.65 from Bournemouth. So they just put on an unbelievable game. Somehow it ended 0-0. Nothing went in the back of the net. But watching that game as somebody who started James Hill, I was shitting my pants. And ultimately, I'm lucky that Bowen didn't get a lot more. So yeah, that's where we're at, and we're wearing the fucking hat. So it feels good. It feels really good.
It's a good review. Good review.
Sharp's team, he also had 2 Arsenal defenders. Not a whole lot happened there. Timber did get the assist, but also got a yellow, I think. So that's why he's at 3. Royfs hasn't been great for him. He had Verbruggen on the bench, which kind of sucks. James Hill as well. Declan Rice. Morgan Rogers blanks it again. Bruno Fernandes blanks. Let's see. João Pedro captain, Ekitike, and Holland. So a lot of mainly blanks was pretty much saved by the João Pedro captaincy. Ironically, had a ton of points on his bench. Everyone returned now that I'm looking at it. Wow. I'm sure if he was here, he'd be talking about how he should have played Anderson over anyone there, but he did decide to play Holland. So good for him. Comes out in the middle. And then Mac, we're on to you.
Yeah. A lot of the same players as you, so I don't need to go too in depth on those guys. I think I see your Enzo and I raise you Chalobah. What a bump. What a bum.
Dude, it's funny. We were talking right before we came on here about how effective your wildcard 24 has been, which is so funny because it was predicated in a lot of ways by how well these Chelsea assets have done or we're going to do. And save João Pedro, that hasn't worked, but it's still working for you regardless. It just means that you've hit in the other picks as well, and captaincy and things like that. But
yeah, it was an interesting wild card because I shot up 400k ranks. I think I was sitting 700k when I decided to rip the band-aid off. I said, like, there's a run where there's a team with a real possibility of a very short run with a real possibility of getting a lot of points, and those guys have been my differentials, and they've shot me up the table. It's been awesome. That being said, they're all bums, and I felt pretty strongly about that when I was bringing them in. I was like, I don't think Chelsea's that good, and I think it's starting to reflect a little bit. There's like some questions about like Chelsea and their defensive performance. They're still getting reds despite the new coach, which is weird. And yeah, I was confidently like, Chalobah just has to keep a clean sheet in one of these next couple weeks, playing Burnley, Leeds, Wolves, and West Ham. And then they all hit like this magic run of form. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? So despite Chelsea doing their best to absolutely ruin my last couple of weeks, João Pedro lucked into a couple of points. I got the captaincies right, and now we're up here. That being said, they're gone. I want them out of my team. I hate them. João Pedro has actually he's been all right, but the rest got to get out of here.
Yeah, I mean, I think with João Pedro, it's he has looked genuinely good. Obviously some of the points that he's gotten have been somewhat ridiculous, but like he has also put up a lot of great underlying numbers and is genuinely doing very well attacking, is getting the benefits of Palmer playing more and more and feeding him a little bit. So it's helped that Chelsea attack. So I understand why you would sell him considering their turn of fixtures, but I think he's still an option, to be honest. I don't know if you have to get rid of him.
He's, for me, purely a fixture thing. Like, just to remind everybody, it's bad. I think everyone knows it's bad, but then I look at it and I'm like, oh, it's really bad. It's Arsenal, Villa, Newcastle, Everton, City, United.
Yeah.
And
pretty ass.
Like, we're in the run-in because then it gets a little better. It goes Brighton, Forest, and then it's Liverpool, Spurs, Sunderland. Yeah. So it's not good for the rest of the season. If it's not now, I think I would eventually be shipping them out. And so for that reason, I'm at this point in the season just trying to take the least amount of moves possible to have the most options for when we get information about like the doubles and the blanks. Yeah. So this is the time they're going to get out. I picked a lot of the guys on my wild card as guys who I could hold for most of, if not the entire season, with these guys being my movers.
Yeah. And you're tentatively planning to get rid of these guys now and then roll quite a bit until 31, I guess, and 32 and 30, like into that period of doubles and blanks. Yeah.
Yeah. So we can get into it more in the transfer section, but I have, looking at this team, 4 transfers, 0 in the bank.
Yeah.
With this team. So yeah, the goal is to set myself up as well as possible for the blank at 31. I obviously won't be able to like dead end into that and then wildcard in 33. So I'll just need to be really smart about listening to the information once we get it and just seeing who I need to target and then have as many transfers as possible to let myself do that.
100%. I really think you're chilling. Like, obviously Sharp and I are on this potentially on this wildcard 32 strategy, but I think wildcarding early is still super viable, and I'm sure with how well you've been able to roll transfers, you're going to be set just fine.
Yeah, I don't think you need to wildcard like this week if you still have it. Like you two, one, you guys are both in a good spot. I mean, with my wildcard, we were separated by like 2 points. But like 2, it's just there's not a clear fixture swing for a large number of teams. Yeah. So I think 32 is a super viable strategy.
Yeah.
It just, for me, I was like, I had like 7 guys who were injured. Like I had no bench, no playable forwards. I was hemorrhaging rank by the week. And I was like, I got to get out of here.
100%. So, well, talking of fixture swings, this is technically 28, I think, is another good opportunity to potentially wildcard if you wanted to get in some of these teams that have good fixtures. Notably, you've got Liverpool, you've got Fulham, Brentford, Bournemouth are some of the teams that have some really nice ones. And then obviously any of your standalones or your mainstays, I should say, in like United and City. But City with that blank in 31, Arsenal with their blank in 31, it seems like could be potential opportunity to make some switches there. Let's start with Liverpool. How do you feel about them coming out of this weekend? Like I said, they got kind of dominated in the first half in terms of possession and XG by a Nottingham Forest side that, say what you will about new manager bounces, but it seems like it worked in their favor in this first half. And then they end up sneaking away with a win in a really odd goal where it was like a clearance that came off of McAllister's asshole into the net. So, where are you at from their team perspective, attack and defense? Obviously they have these great fixtures coming up.
Mid. It's the theme of the week. Like, I don't think that they've been that strong this season. I think 28 games in, you can make some broad sweeping strokes that are probably going to end up being true. Like, you can say that Tottenham are bad this season, barring a miraculous recovery. I think it's also fair to say that Liverpool have been kind of mid this season, but so is everybody else. And I just think when you're seeing kind of like this inconsistency in performance, it makes you really unexcited to own any of their assets, because you're like, I think Ekitike will probably score at some point in the next couple of weeks, but it's probably not going to be in the game you want it to be or expect it to be. And it's probably just going to be some random game, and it's just be unrewarding. And combined with the fact that they're still just really expensive because they're coming off a Prem winning season, I just feel mid about them. I think this is spoiler. I've gone early and I brought in at least one Liverpool player to be revealed later. A little drama, a little suspense. And I'm just looking at them. I'm like, they don't justify the price. So it'll be cool next season when they're cheap again.
100%. Well, and they might not be. We'll see. Like, how the fuck are they going to price Isak next year? But I think as somebody who owns Ekitike, it's been incredibly frustrating the last few weeks not to get the returns. But the good news is he's getting the chances, which, is the copium that people use for Darwin for a long time. But I do think Ekitike has built up enough trust with me as an owner of like someone who is a finisher, someone who's going to get out of this drought. He can't keep missing point blank headers the way he has. So I'm happy to own him. I think the question is more so, I guess let's do this. How would you rank Liverpool assets if you were going to invest in one? Because I think the three that I would think of, I guess there's options. I don't know. I'll leave it open for you.
Okay. I like it. The three that I can think of are Salvazai, those are one player, just learned how to say it right the second time. Van Dijk, and then Ekitike.
I think I was going to think Wirtz and Salah as well. And Salah feels a little bit laughable to throw in there given his price, but I suppose there's an argument to be made for bringing him in as well.
No, that's an interesting point. I forgot about that. Do we have any clarity on Wirtz's injury?
So during warmups, he had some sort of muscle tightness. I think based on that information alone, I'd be relatively confident that he comes back and plays this week, considering Liverpool didn't play any games midweek. If he was in warmups, he was ready to go and then tweaked something, it seems pretty good. So if I owned him, I don't think I'd be all that concerned. But as somebody who's looking to buy him, it feels like a weird time, right? Where not only is there potentially injury concerns, so you could wait till Friday, hear a press conference, or I guess the deadline's on Friday, so you could wait till whenever the press conferences are and get some more information and then potentially bring him in. But are his minutes going to be managed? The second part of it is West Ham have looked pretty good recently. I'm not, delusional to think that they're suddenly like a stout defense or something, and maybe this is recency bias at play, but you see Liverpool play Forest. They don't look very threatening or effective. Maybe that's because they don't have Wirtz, but who knows? And then you see West Ham just destroy Bournemouth. And it's like, maybe this isn't like the lopsided fixture that it looks to be on paper or that the models are projecting it here, because West Ham have genuinely turned it around a little bit and have just looked a lot better for the last few games back against the wall, I suppose.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. I am a little annoyed to hear that Wirtz might play this weekend, because I think I would have had a huge debate. I was really struggling. He wasn't an asset when I wildcarded in 24. Yeah. And then he started hitting that patch and I was like, well, I have a plan. I got to stick to it. So I'm not going to bring him in now. But he was definitely a potential. And then I heard he was injured. So I just didn't go there and don't really want to at this point with the moves I've made. But yeah, I think he's a good option. I guess I've seen some people transferring him out, which I just don't understand.
Yeah, it feels early to be doing that.
Maybe it was the injury concern. The reason I like him though so back to your ranking question. Ekitike, despite getting all the chances, I like less than Verts, even though he wasn't on my original list because he's cheaper. Verts is cheaper by a lot. It just affords you. There's so many guys who are good this season that I think we're just trying to get most coverage.
Wait, sorry, Verts is cheaper than Ekitike?
Yeah, isn't he?
Yeah, but not by much. So Wirtz is 8.4, Ekitike is 8.7. I suppose I own Ekitike, so maybe I'm not seeing the numbers
Ekitike
right.
for
8.9.
8.9. Yeah. Wirtz would be
8.4. Okay,
what's the point separating them, do you think, this season?
Wirtz is at 100, Ekitike is at
106.
Yeah.
So he's slightly cheaper. And for me, that is the only differentiator between, like you said, two mid assets.
That's crazy to think about, considering that Wirtz blanked in his first 10 games or whatever. That's really wild.
In and out of the team for a little
while. Yeah, that's true. That's true. So if you did points per 90, I'd be interested in that, because
I think Ekitike has been pretty on the Prem site. Points per match. It says points per match. I don't know if that's point per 90. 4.0 for Verts.
4.4 for Ekitike. Yeah, that's interesting. Honestly, that really does put it in perspective. It's kind of been that way this year, where you look at players and you're like, oh shit, Declan Rice is the second highest scoring mid in the game. You're like, oh, Bruno G only had a couple of nice weeks. Oh no, he's fourth on the list.
Yeah, and then you're like, Semenyo and Rice are separated by 2 points, so they were as of last week.
Yeah,
it's just, I think, like you said, it speaks to the parity, but the parity combined with this 7 center backs per team and let's play set pieces meta has just made for a very boring season.
Yeah, for sure.
And that from an FPL perspective, we're not getting those consistent hat tricks or multiple captaincy options. You're scraping by with is João Pedro going to get a goal and then get subbed off at 70 and still be the best captain this week? Yeah, because it's just how the season's been. I'm bringing us back on track though. Sabazai for me has fallen to 4th. Well, he does score bang-in free kicks. I don't think you can count on those as an asset too much. And he's inconsistently playing midfield sometimes. He is cheaper, but he's too cheap in my mind. Although I guess I should do my own test. How many points does he have? But he's got 100, exact same as Wirtz.
Jesus.
All right, so never mind. They're all the same. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, so genuinely though, in that sense, it does point you towards a Szoboszlai, because he's cheaper. You know
what it points you to? It points you to Van Dijk. He's got 122 points and he's 6.0. So by that logic, he's going. I don't agree with that at all.
Well, okay, then I'm going to give my rankings then. I think I would probably put Ekitike 1, just because I think his potential for getting points is really high. Just in terms of he continues to be that center forward, getting the ball, getting the opportunities crossed into him. I think his potential is high. Yes, he's blanked for a while now, but it's blanking where you're relatively certain that it's going to come to fruition for him. I think 2, I probably would put Van Dijk as well. On the whole, Liverpool have not shown to be a worthwhile defense this year. They've shown to be so shaky, but they're starting to kind of get a little bit more footing. And I think, when you were mentioning that you were bringing in Van Dijk, I was like, I don't know. Do you really trust them defensively? But then ultimately looking at, if you're buying new right now, he's probably the best option of any defender out there. So I think that brings him into the fold. And then 3, I don't know. I think it's a toss-up between Sobo and Wirtz. It really depends on what you're doing with the rest of the funds, would be my perspective on that.
Yeah, so I did go to Van Dijk, and I'll get more into the logic of that a little bit later.
Sorry to spoil for anyone who was waiting till the end.
Yeah, everyone was on their edge of their seats. But genuinely, I agree that they've been kind of an defense. I'm really hoping they're getting it together as someone who just invested in their defender. But yeah, I don't know. I think that it's the right decision to go for them. I feel like it's going to be painful because inevitably whoever you pick is going to be the wrong one.
Yeah. And I think there's a little bit of differing strategy between the two of us, and obviously with Sharp as well. But, with that wildcard 32, I'm looking at their next 4 fixtures and saying, okay, West Ham, Wolves, Tottenham, Brighton, what can I really get from them there? And as appealing as that looked on paper a few weeks ago, it looks less appealing to me now. It's really the Wolves game and arguably the Tottenham game that are the most enticing. But I think from your perspective, it makes even more sense to go with a Liverpool player just because they have such a strong run for a while.
Yep.
So I really like that move for you even more so than somebody like myself who's looking short term.
So I don't set like a horizon longer than like 5 or 6 weeks in this game because it's just more transfers than you have. So how can you really plan for it?
Sure.
So for me, my next big milestone is 31 in 3 weeks,
Right.
and then 33. Because remind me, is the big free hit week going to be 33? We think, and then the double week's going to be 34, or vice versa?
Double 33, blank 34.
Okay, then yeah. So I know that Van Dijk plays in 31, meaning the next time I'm going to want to launch a ton of transfers is probably going to be cover 31 and then 33.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I pick him because, as you said, the run for more than just the next 4 is good, and that's what I find appealing. But it's totally a different strategy. You're right.
Yeah. Moving on from Liverpool, some other teams that have good fixtures, both short and, well, I guess in Bournemouth's case, it's really just more short term. So I've been thinking in the the context of my team, but teams like Fulham, Brentford, and Bournemouth all have pretty good fixtures, and they have competing assets in the sense of general price. So you think of your Harry Wilsons and maybe a Raul Jimenez. I don't know. He might be injured. I thought I saw something going into this, but that's neither here nor there. Harry Wilson and Raul on Fulham. And then on Brentford, you've got Dango. You obviously got Thiago. You've got Sade, and potentially if you wanted to go for a defender, I suppose. And then Bournemouth, you obviously have James Hill and who am I thinking of? Tavernier and the new guy, Ryan. So those are all different options that are all around the same price. I think for many people like yourself who are looking to get away from Enzo, there's kind of a competing priority there. Does anyone in that from those 3 teams stand out to you as a really good option going forward?
Bournemouth, and what were the other 2 teams?
Bournemouth, Brentford, and Fulham.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All of them. That's exactly the problem I'm having this week. Like, I can think of both positive and negatives to all of them because I think they're all solidly mid-table teams this season. Like, good mid-table teams. I don't mean that as like an insult.
Yeah.
But like Bournemouth's 9th, Fulham's 10th, and Brentford 7th. So it's like it's tight between those guys, and their assets perform similarly.
Yeah. So do you have out of those like kind of cheaper mids or even a forward maybe, do you have preferences there?
Yes. I think the big 3 for me this week would be Ryan, Wilson, or
gotta think. I was going to say, gotta think Thiago from the forward perspective as well as probably head and shoulders.
Yes, absolutely. From just with the run of fixtures, it's so nice. But from like a midfield perspective, just the 3 that I think that a lot of people are competing with is because I don't think that a lot of people are going to be looking Tavernier or, for instance, over like Thiago. Is he a midfielder?
Yeah, Tavernier's a mid.
Evan Nielsen, I guess I'm just thinking of. That's the problem with the Bournemouth players. There's a million of them. They all get 60 minutes a game.
So true. But that was my exact. What you just said is exactly why I avoided Semenyo at the beginning of the year and got fucked.
Yep. What a stupid decision that was. I'm sorry, low blow. Yeah, I don't know. I've said nothing intelligent in this segment.
No, you're good. I mean, I think Brentford are the one out of those that I trust their attack the best, I would say, just in terms of on the whole as a team. But Thiago, it's a question of like how much does Thiago take that stuff in and how much can you trust their like secondary assets in like a Dango or a Sade. Harry Wilson is an interesting one, man. I really don't know what to do with him, but I think he's proven to be consistent enough, and their fixtures are really that good. Tottenham, West Ham, Forest, and Burnley over the next 4. That as a short-term punt, I think he's really nice. So I think he would probably be my top mid of that group, but it's close. Ryan, I feel like, last week I was talking about potentially him being a minutes risk. I just don't think that's the case. He's continued to play. There's some quick turnarounds, which I guess we can touch on here. Curious for Bournemouth. Yeah, they have a little bit of a quick turnaround. We have a midweek coming up in 29, where it's going to be Sunderland to Brentford for them. But I still think he's probably relatively secure for minutes, or as secure as anyone is on that team. So I think if you need the money, that's a fine play. But I think I would probably put him third. I think I'd go Harry Wilson, Dango Watara, and then him. I think that would be my ranking, but it's hard to rank Ryan because he's so new.
I'm going to take a second to digest this graph that I'm looking at.
Yeah, let me talk you through it. Yeah, sorry. These are Game Week 27, midweek European games, Game Week 28, and Game Week 29. How many days are in between there? So essentially, red is quick turnaround rotation risk. Exactly. So mainly you're looking at that 28 to 29 and 29 to FA Cup. Like, who's going to have players that turn around? I think along the lines of the Liverpool conversation we were having, you look at this and think that there could be some rotation there as well. So like getting an injured Wirtz right now feels weird ahead of 3 really quick fixtures. I think this is also along the lines of why I didn't end up going for a Semenyo last week, is because Pep Roulette, who the hell knows how long his minutes are secure. I think we haven't touched on Nico O'Reilly, obviously doing so well over the last couple of weeks, but the same could be said for him. Of you have Leeds, Forest, and Newcastle in rapid succession, and one of those being a Champions League game. You know, how many of them are going to play all 3 of those games? Who knows? Anyway, I got us a little off topic there, but
no, it's good. This is bummer that really rules out my plan to get Wolves assets.
Facts, dude.
That's out the window.
They're looking fire. They're looking fire this year. This is their
year. Maybe. I mean,
they're going to do really well in the championship next year.
Hey, I think that the championship should be the name of the top league.
Yeah, that makes no sense. I agree with you. That makes no sense why the championship is second. I feel like Ted Lasso made that joke.
Well, great minds. But yeah, no, I agree with your large points. Like, if we think about teams also with squads big enough to rotate, Liverpool have a squad that's big enough to rotate, right? They spent all of the money in the summer, but every available free agent. They did the Chelsea strategy. Newcastle have just had like a lot of inconsistent injuries and have a lot of old guys. So their kind of rotation risk, combined with that like horrible run, combined with the fact that they've been wildly out of sorts this season. Palace, huge rotation issues. So this is a great graph. It's really informing me of some rotation concerns. I think that the conclusion that I'm drawing from this is we got to look at the guy who's the most secure on the teams that we need to place our bets on. So if it's like Liverpool, who is that going to be? Like you said, is that Wirtz? Probably not, compared to like Ekitike or Van Dijk.
Yeah, if he didn't sit out last game, I would feel pretty confident in Wirtz. But now it feels like if he's dealing with something, maybe it was a 1-game thing, it was something he tweaked that's going to be fine. But if it was big enough to make him sit out, you got to think that like his minutes might be managed a little bit more. So
just because there's some really important games coming up.
Yeah. So I think that's, that makes things hard, especially as somebody who funny enough, I've been planning to get Wirtz to the point where I took a hit a couple weeks ago in anticipation of that. And here we are.
I think the funniest outcome for me on the topic of Liverpool, and while Sharp's not here, would be for Liverpool to like get to the Champions League final, lose, but keep Slot next season.
Yeah.
I think Sharp would go ballistic.
I do think they're potentially in a place where something like that could happen. I don't know. What is your take on that? Like, how long of a leash do you give a guy that just won you a title?
I think it really is dependent on where they finish the season.
Yeah.
Like, Liverpool shouldn't be playing Conference League, and while Isak did get injured, the supposed decline of Salah, as far as I'm concerned, is not necessarily proven yet. And then, like, I was saying this last season, like, I think it was Klopp's teams last season, and then given the chance, the Slot team has looked worse than the previous iteration. Yeah. If you're Liverpool is arguably one of the biggest clubs, like probably top 2 clubs in England. And those kind of clubs, it's been nice for them to have Klopp for a couple of years, but they're ambitious. And I could see them just saying Xabi Alonso in the summer. Yeah. Get us over the line.
Yeah. Oh, that's so crazy to think. But I honestly think you're right. Like, it's been a long season. They've played 27 games, and it feels like we still have yet to see Liverpool look dominant.
Good. Yeah.
Like it never has really clicked this year. So
And I would say it's been like a transition year or something like a rebuilding year, but that's not really true. Is that they like rebuilt? They bought great players, and you can argue they needed time to gel, but I don't know. It's just not looking good, man.
Yeah, this last week was a real shock to the senses. Obviously, again, yeah, no words, but boy, even if you don't have him, you really shouldn't be looking like that against Nottingham Forest, who are in a fucking relegation battle. Anyway, okay. So yeah, we touched on forwards to buy, mids to buy, Chelsea assets. See ya.
See ya.
Yeah.
Get out of
I don't know. I feel like that does cover a lot of it. I guess
the main decisions, right? Like there's four teams we're considering. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting. 4 teams, and then Chelsea assets are gone.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the only other thing would be to say, let's take a pulse check on Arsenal. Where are you at with their assets? So we have, because of the double that came through, everybody probably has 3 Arsenal assets or had them going into this week at least. Where do you stand on that as far as their fixtures are kind of turning, right? You even see that in terms of like projected goals here, where, they play Chelsea this week. Let me pull up their fixtures. It's Chelsea, Brighton, Everton, and then obviously they blank in 31. So it gives you an opportunity to kind of swerve them. Do you still think having double defense is a priority? Do you think Declan Rice, he's still returning is the funny thing. He's just not returning at potentially the rate that we would want. What's your temperature on those assets?
I think this is where I'm going to play the old head card and just be like, I've been playing FPL for a while, and I see people transferring out like Rice. I think you did that this week, right?
Yeah. Maybe not my best move.
Transferring out Rice is fine because there are other alternatives. Not the one I'm going to gripe about. I'm personally not doing it, but again, I have 3 Chelsea assets, so different story. But the people who are like panicking and like selling all their Arsenal defenders, I think that's crazy. And I know that they've been a little out of sorts, but who doesn't wobble in like a 38 game season? They have the top scoring goalkeeper, the top 2 scoring defenders, and then the top scoring, or now he's under Semenyo, but second scoring midfielder. Like those, you were 27 games in. It's not a fluke at this point. Right. And so I think with those kind of guys, it's like I just don't panic and hold them for the long run because they're just one of the better teams this season.
Yeah. From a defensive perspective, they haven't kept it clean in their last 3. And obviously that's including the 2 games in the double. But before that, they kept 4 cleans in 5.
Yeah. So, and we got a little spoiled with them where they're putting up 13 every week at the beginning of the season. But if you have a defending asset who cleans like 4 cleans in 5, you're like, that's someone I would want.
No, that's incredible.
And also, who are your alternatives? Like, there's no good defenders. So if you're looking for the best of the worst, it's them, I think. Yeah.
Declan Rice. Yeah. I think it's probably team dependent on that one because he is returning and like he also still always has the potential to put up a high score. And I don't think that we've seen the end of him in that sense. He's still the second highest scoring mid in the game. That being said, if you're preparing for 31 and trying to get rid of him ahead of that, I think it's a fine time to swerve off of him, just considering those fixtures aren't amazing. And to your point, we just went through other guys who do have really good fixtures. So it's an opportunity, but
on a macro level, I'm talking sort of more from my perspective, where I can't afford to make the transfers on those guys. I think in your situation, something that I was seriously considering if I had the luxury of would be like, get rid of Rice or Timber if you're tripled up on the Arsenal defense, and then use that as a means to let the dust settle on their shakiness and see if it is actually going to be shakiness and they're falling apart or if it's just a fluke.
Yeah.
Hit the blank at 31 and then rebuy into as needed. And I think that's a completely viable strategy.
Yep.
And again, my take is biased by the fact that I don't want to transfer them out for the rest of the season. But yeah, I think it's a totally valid point of like, we don't know necessarily where the dust is going to settle. And even if you think you do need to have 3 of them again at some point in the season, everyone probably has one of those flex guys in Timber or Rice.
And funny enough, like, I feel like at this point I would maybe be interested because so at the time when we all bought Rice, it was like there wasn't that many options in midfield that were returning. And now it feels like there are.
Yep.
So it almost leads me to be like, you know what, if I was going to do it, and obviously for me, to your point, the opportunity is in 32. I would maybe just do triple defense and say fuck it.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Like if you could
Yeah.
get rid of Rice now, hit the blank, and then go back to triple defense, and then have
Yeah.
a nice midfielder that could cook.
Yeah, and I wonder what their run is from 32 on.
It's better. It's better.
It's all also dependent on, like, I think something I'm not looking forward to from a wild card perspective is it's dependent a lot on those blanks and doubles. So it may be that like what I want to do from a high level strategic perspective is somewhat dominated by just, oh, okay, I have to go for doubles and blankers. Or
we had this conversation a little bit last week, but then it was getting a little heated, and we're like, nah, that's next week's problem. What's your perspective on the wild card? I don't remember where you landed. It was you and Sharp on opposite sides, go figure. But I don't have the wild card, so I'm out of the race. But you wanted to potentially go into the wild card with transfers, like, because my question is basically, do you want to attack the doubles that we're going to see really hard after your wild card and then bench boost and then figure out the rest of the season, or are you going to go for like some mid strategy and come into the wild card with a ton of transfers, or are you going to try to like not attack the doubles and then see the long term out?
I think it's like a little bit of both, and I know that sounds cop-outy, but I would lean towards using up the transfers beforehand, and that was my argument last week. Is okay. Like basically we're going again. If you're on this strategy, wildcard 32, bench boost 33, free hit 34. So then you come out in 35, and you haven't used a transfer in theory unless you had some major injury in those 3 weeks. So then you're coming out in 35 with whatever that is, 3 transfers.
But did we establish you don't get them when you free hit?
You roll one when you wild card. When you bench boost, I think you also roll one. It's free hit that you don't. Free hit counts as like using one transfer.
Okay.
I think that's right, but now that I'm saying it out loud, I need to go check.
No, that's what I would have said, gun to my head. So either that or both idiots.
Point being though, like I think it's also a difference in terms of where Sharp and I are sitting. Like for me, by 35, if I'm still ranked 800K, like what are we doing? You know what I mean? I've lost the opportunity to make up ground. So it was kind of a like, let's try to make up the ground now before I get in there. So all that to say though, if there aren't opportunities for big transfers, like again, Wirtz is the one this week, right? I was planning that. Now it seems like that might be off the table. Then I'm not going to rip my team apart and just use transfers for the sake of using transfers. Mm-hmm. So
that's the greatest call you can make week to week too, is do I do anything at all?
Yeah. All right. Well, I feel like that talks us nicely into transfer plans. I have my bus up, so I can jump into my own. Actually, let's first do Sharps because we know what his move made was. So this was his team last week, and he moved Timber to Van Dijk. Is that right? I think that's right.
I think that's right.
Yeah. So he said fuck it on Arsenal defense. He got tired of it and he switched to Van Dijk, which to our earlier conversation, I think definitely has the highest upside of any defender going forward for the next few weeks. So I like the aggressive move. He's got, I guess that means he's going to be benching João Pedro probably in favor of Anderson and Wilson. So he'll be doing a 3-5-2. So an Arsenal defender in Gabriel, Gahey, and Van Dijk, and then Rodgers, Rice, Bruno, Anderson, and Wilson in the midfield, and Ekitike and Holland up front. I mean, yeah, I think that's a really solid. I don't know who he'll play at goalkeeper, but it doesn't really matter.
Do you like his structure?
I mean, I think in his and my situation where it's so short term, I think it's fine. Like, I think I don't think structure matters all that.
Matters with an impending wild card.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Like he's good. The only thing is, personally, you and I are definitely of the perspective of like, this is a week to get Thiago. Burnley, Bournemouth, Wolves, Leeds in the next 4, and that run continues even after that. So him not having Thiago would worry me. It wouldn't surprise me knowing Sharp, though, if he hits João Pedro out for him anyway. But
yeah, fair point.
He'll be like, no, I got to play Anderson, so I'm not going to do it. I don't know. Well, I am really curious to hear what he has to say on that. But as far as we know, he has not made the move João Pedro to Thiago yet. But, hey, that's the template move. I'm sure he's probably going to be the most bought player this week, so it's interesting. Yeah, I think he's well set up. And honestly, as somebody who's trying to gain ground on him, not owning a Van Dijk and you guys both owning him is not ideal. So yeah, this is my bus team. So I did Rice to Dango, and let me talk through that really briefly, because basically what happened was Dango was about to rise, and I realized about 10 minutes before the deadline. And so I was thinking, and Enzo was going to fall. So I was thinking, oh, maybe I just do Enzo to Dango right now, because Dango was someone who I knew that I wanted. From the perspective of earlier, we were talking about, I already have Harry Wilson, Brentford attack, trust them on the whole, and think he could be a nice differential. So that was my thought process. I was about to do Enzo to him, but I realized, obviously, with Rice having the blank in 31, there's some incentive to get rid of him ahead of that. There's still plenty of time, but that's another transfer that then I have to use to get rid of him. Additionally, this is a dumb reason, but part of my thinking was if I did Enzo to Dango this week and I still had Rice, it would be hard for me to play Dango over Rice. But I would want to, because he's playing Burnley. So I was just kind of like, you know what? I think I don't want to deal with that. I'm going to take Rice out. Somebody who, it was a little bit of a rage transfer, if I'm being honest, of like this guy, they just put 4 goals in and he didn't get involved in any one of them. So yeah, got rid of him, got Dango in, which I'm totally fine with for the upside. And then Enzo is there in case I need to play him in 31. And it leaves me enough money that if I want to do Enzo up to Wirtz, which is pretty likely that I could do, I could do that this week for a hit or next week. So it's honestly more likely that I wait till next week and bring in Wirtz against Wolves. And then I get him against Wolves, Tottenham, and Brighton. So that's the thought process. Like basically, I was either going to do Enzo to Dango this week and then Rice to Wirtz next week, or the other way around. And I chose this one, which probably was dumb in hindsight. But I think at the end of the day, as long as all my players start, it's whatever. It was either way.
Did you ever hit last week?
No, I did not hit last week. I hit 2 weeks ago, and I'm thinking about hitting again this week. So we hate rolling transfers.
So you're looking at hitting. What's the hit question?
It would be Enzo to Wirtz.
Oh, okay.
So that's the decision I still have is, let's say at press conferences, Slot says, yeah, he's doing better, he's likely to play, or something along those lines. Is it worth Enzo to Wirtz for a hit? So I think if there's really no injury concern, let's just say that, where he's like, no, he's good to go 100%, like not concerned about it. Yeah. Is it still a no for you?
Well, the question is always who makes way. You can't bench another defender, and Crystal Palace haven't been great. And I just feel like you need so much to happen for an inconsistent player for a hit to be worth it. Like if this was a guy who was scoring 3 every game, then it would be like, no shit, we got to do this ASAP. But it's a Dango versus a Wirtz with an injury. It's like, I don't know. I can't see it being worth it.
Yeah, I just like everyone. I think that's part of why I ended up doing Rice to Dango in the sense of the benching dilemma, is more so just like every time I look at this attack, there's not a player I want to pull out of it for this week specifically. So I'm like, I don't know if I could fit him in. So yeah, I think that's probably the right call. In which case, I just do Enzo to Wirtz next week when they play Wolves. In theory, we'll see what happens. Obviously, things can change, but I have like 2 point something in the bank, so I have enough to make basically any move I want.
Yeah, you're chilling.
Yeah, chilling. I guess I could also do the other hit would be if I wanted to do like Enzo to Semenyo, but I just am not certain of his minutes going forward.
I don't.
But that's classic.
Go for Semenyo because you've done it. You've achieved it. Something I've been thinking about wrong until just now is the fact that we both have Raya. So for us, we don't have to field 4 outfielders. We can play Dubravka.
Yeah.
And bench Raya. So long way of saying we have spot for 4 benchings, and you've done it. You've hit your 4 City Arsenal players. Yeah,
100%. So I'm set going into 31 in that sense, but if you actually fast forward to my lineup, it's ass. My defense specifically is ass. So
I don't think it's gonna be a good week for most people.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Yeah. So anyway, I think I'm probably sticking here going into this week, and we'll reassess next week.
Cool.
All right.
It's a good week.
Let's see it.
Yeah. So this is my team post 2 transfers, leaving me 2 more. Still nothing in the bank. So I went early on João Pedro, and Chalaba out. Chalaba's the bum. João Pedro, goodbye, my sweet prince. I went those guys out for Virgil and Tiago. Tiago is kind of like my non-negotiable on this plan. It's been my plan since 24. And I know he's been dealing with some inconsistency issues, but I was like, it just facilitates all of my moves. Like getting a cheap forward on Pens who's been doing great this season is exactly what I was looking for, because I didn't want to go as heavy in the forward as like Sharp does. That's why I was asking about structure earlier, because he's got 3 expensive forwards and I can't get into that with how heavy my mid is. I mean, I could, it's just not what I wanted to do. So Tiago was like my non-negotiable. Then when Verts was injured, I was like, all right, well, this is a no-brainer to go Virgil then, because if I'm definitely bringing in a Liverpool asset, I'm not bringing in Ekatike, and it was between Virgil and Verts. Well, Verts is injured, so done.
I just realized sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah,
Continue. I was going to say, okay, we're inevitably getting to who do you transfer Enzo out for? Yes. And I just realized we hadn't considered when we were talking cheap mids, you could just do Sobo. How do you feel about that?
Thought about it. Not great for the reasons I listed earlier, but not strongly enough to rule him out outright. But yeah, so like that was my thought process. I'm a little annoyed that Verts is back. The only against I had for Verts was that if I brought him in, I think that would have forced me to field a 4.6 mil defender. I think that's what I had money for. And the options weren't looking great because like at this point of the season, everybody knows who the budget guys are.
Right.
So it's not like they're amazing at that price.
I think at that point you would just go James Hill and pray. The thing with James Hill is that defense is so bad. So like I said, as an owner, got really, really lucky with a clean sheet this weekend. He didn't DEFCON. In positive for you, Senesi did he didn't like get across the line, but he got, I think, 8. Hill got 7, I think, if my memory serves. So Senesi might still be a fine pick. Like it may just be that there was a couple games there where Hill was doing something, he was put in a position against specific attacks that he was doing that more. So anyway, all that to say, like, he could be an option, but I think you made the right choice in picking a more reliable defender in Van Dijk.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm annoyed about the Hill situation, quite honestly, because at the time of my wildcard, you guys have gotten the benefit of time on me, and he just wasn't a known quantity.
But that's what I'm saying. I think Senesi could be back. Like, I think next week you could see Senesi get like 15 DEFCON, and you're like, okay, we're fine. Never mind.
I'm not really losing out on anybody right now by having Hill. Like, if I did play around with getting rid of Senesi and Enzo because I have 4 transfers. And if I bring in like a Semenyo, that leaves me a 3.4. So I can't afford anybody if I do that. Therefore, I'm not that bothered by it. I'm bummed that Hill is doing as great as he said, because I was like on so early and I was giving you guys that pick. Like you got to get Hill, and it's been great. And I haven't been able to profit on it at all. But yeah, so like from the 4.5 mil, 4.6 mil, 4.7 mil defender standpoint, there wasn't anybody great. The only options were Keane, who plays for Everton. I think we're done with them for the season because their fixtures are just bad. I've had a lot of respect for them this season now. Anderson, which was a legitimate option of mine, but I think I might go, I don't know, not sure. They're just they're not a fantastic defense. And then it was like Mukiele. I was like, well, I already have Alderete. So that was the Virgil decision.
You mean Alderete?
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci. That's what we're going to call him from now on. But I'm so psyched out by saying that for so long that I don't even know if I say
what his real name is.
Like, I don't know what I just said, for one, and I don't know if it was right, for 2. Like,
facts.
It's just lost all meaning to me.
See, that's what I'm saying. Just ride with it. Just, whatever comes out is
exactly
what we ride with. Yeah.
But yeah, so now I'm just stuck in that horrible cheap midfield debate, and that's what the Enzo decision is. I have to pick between like a Ryan and a Wilson and an Anderson, and who's the other one? Like a Salazar,
Dango Ouattara,
and Dango Ouattara, and
or Kevin Schade, I guess.
I have these 5 choices. No, I don't like Kevin Schade.
Well, I think
it's in this summer, probably Spurs. It's going to be a mistake.
That's I'm just expecting the worst. Well, I think it's a little bit of a different conversation for you than it was for me like when we were talking about this earlier, I was truthfully thinking about it from the short-term perspective. Of the three teams that we talked about earlier, Brentford, Bournemouth, and Fulham, where all those cheap mids that are potentially options are, Fulham don't have good long-term fixtures in terms of they do Tottenham, West Ham, Forest, and Burnley, and then they get into Liverpool, Brentford, Villa.
Yeah, that's pretty gross.
Right, it goes on. So Arsenal. So for you as somebody who's looking longer term, I actually think a Harry Wilson is fine to swerve. I don't know if ownership plays on your mind at all either, but Harry Wilson is pretty highly owned, whereas going for like a Ryan or a Dengo Watara is like they're basically unowned. But I think of those two, similarly, Bournemouth in 32 has Arsenal and Newcastle back to back. So I think like long-term fixture-wise, Brentford is probably your best bet. That being said, I think there's still, debates to be had of like how involved is Dengo Watara. He probably is a little bit more of a minutes risk than either one of the other two guys. He's not necessarily certain, but I feel like if you're looking long term, it's not a bad play. He's been pretty integral to talk about a guy who assists on penalties like João Pedro. If that's what you want to replace, man, you got him. But his underlyings have been pretty good as well since he's come back from AFCON. So he's a good option, I think. But I think you probably can't go wrong between those three. And I'm sure you don't need to play this guy, whoever you pick, every week.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. I got to think about where he is in the perspective of my team too, right? Like this is my fifth midfielder, but at the same time, I don't necessarily feel super strongly about that. Like, is he actually my fifth midfielder? Rogers is kind of and Rice is kind of and Fernandez has been kind of So it's like, again, it's a midweek.
Sure. Sure.
It is in fact Wednesday, but
I mean, yeah, like I really like I said before, like I do really like Harry Wilson, and I think for the next four, he's probably the option I would pick. I just don't know if then you're going to be sitting there. Maybe he doesn't return as much as you had hoped in those four, and then you're sitting there looking down the barrel of Liverpool, Brentford, Villa, and Arsenal, and being like, "Fuck, I've got to get rid of." And that's at 32 when you're already having to make transfers for players with doubles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you ideally don't want somebody that you have to worry about in that period.
So here's the tricky part, right? I don't know who's doubling.
Right.
And what I probably need to do is like literally just sit down and circle the guys who have a double chance. Because what I don't want to do is bring in someone who I'm inevitably going to have to transfer out. And that's the challenging part. The thing is, though, on the flip side, is between now and 31. So it's pre-28 right now, and I'm planning on coming out of this week with one transfer. So pre-29 2, pre-33, pre-31 4 transfers. I only have to get rid of one player in that time frame, one of my Arsenal outfielders or Man City outfielders. I'm thinking it'd probably be Gahey, actually. So 3, and then so 32 into 33. I might actually go into that with 4 transfers. And that was another reason for me wildcarding in 24 was just the fact that I had these long periods of time where I could roll. So it's not I'm of two minds. One, I'm like, if I pick a Wilson and his fixtures turn, that sucks. But if I pick a Wilson and then he's not going to double and I need to get rid of him anyway.
You have to get rid of him anyway.
Yeah. Maybe that's the best move. And I unfortunately right now don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah.
And that's
which is why I think that you play it safe and go for the player that does have good fixtures.
Just in case.
Yeah. And again, that's really coming more so not even from the player perspective. That's really just looking at the ticker and being like, okay, what makes sense for somebody who's looking more long-term? And because ultimately I do think there's not that much to split these budget guys. Like, of course the returns are going to be completely different because it's FPL and variance is a thing. But I think when you're splitting hairs between Harry Wilson, Dengo Watara, and this Ryan guy.
Yeah. Dengo's a guy I theoretically don't have to move for the rest of the season if I pick him up.
Sure.
That's why
you could argue that for Harry Wilson as well, because he's what is in terms of top players that we were talking about earlier, Harry Wilson is 5th in midfielders.
That's crazy.
So he could just be your set and forget guy that you play even in bad fixtures. And and you just accept that now.
And I got to look at the rotation too. The reason I'm kind of staying away from Ryan is because I so do not trust Bournemouth that I have benched basically every point that these Bournemouth assets have gotten me. because that's not why I picked him. I basically didn't pick them to play them. I picked them to like have playing guys on the bench.
Yeah.
And my outfield is just so strong that I'm like, who do I play? The Sunderland, Senesi on the inconsistent Bournemouth, or do I play basically anybody else?
I honestly, the funny thing is too, you could probably play Senesi this week and be fine.
No, I could. Yeah.
I don't think Bournemouth are ever a bet to keep a clean sheet, but
No.
you probably could play Senesi.
I don't think I have a bad pick on this team right now, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like barring maybe the Arsenal guys, because that's hard this week. Leeds away, they're awful away.
Yeah, this is interesting. I also think you talking about getting rid of Gahey once 31 comes around makes sense, just because who they
He's
have
been
after.
inconsistent. I'm basically just the reason I kept him on the wild card was because his run up until 31 was so good. It was, and he hasn't gotten as many clean sheets as I wanted, but he's starting to get some DEFCONs and he got the Fulham clean. So if he can clean in, like, I would love 3 cleans in Leeds, Forest, and West Ham. I don't know if that's realistic, but then it's Chelsea, Arsenal. And I'm like, I think he's going for 31. I'll keep the attackers because they have higher upside and call it a day.
And it's probably smart to keep the Arsenal guys. So I hear that.
So I feel like I have a plan forming. It's just for this last midfield spot, I got to figure out how I want to be strategic about it. Like, what's my plan for this guy?
Yeah, 100%.
I hate Rodgers, by the way.
So that's something we didn't talk about when we talked about like teams with good fixtures. Villa are over the next 8 are second. They have Wolves, Chelsea, United, West Ham, Forest, Sunderland, Fulham.
You look at them through the season though, and that's the reason I have them.
Right.
Like next 8, next 12.
He's 1 point behind Harry Wilson in terms of total points this year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it's solid, but again, we talked about this last week, but as a non-owner, he's not somebody that I'm like super upset I don't have. That being said, could he return huge this week against Wolves? Absolutely. In 31 West Ham, absolutely. So I mean,
as an owner, I'm like not thrilled about owning him. So like good for him, but crazy that I feel forced to have him because of the fixtures.
Yeah. All right. Well, sounds like you're gonna weigh some budget options. The last thing we wanted to touch on before we got out of here is looking a little bit at Crowd FPL. So this is not a sponsorship. We do not have the following for that, but I think it's an interesting way to think about the upcoming week. I just think this is a cool tool. So for those who haven't used it, it's essentially just a game where you're predicting who gets more FPL points. Similar to sports betting, you want to pick the underdog because it gives you more points if you win. But you also obviously want to pick the guy that just ultimately scores more points. And every week there's a leaderboard and it shows what your total score is. Everyone starts at 1,000. And if you get more picks right, then your numbers go up. I'm here at 985, number 417 out of like, 900 managers. So doing pretty ass, kind of like my FPL this year. So that makes good sense.
So this is my first week playing. I'd like to interject. I am higher than Luke, but I haven't played it, not at all. So maybe that's just my strategy.
No, actually, if you just sit at 1,000, like 1,000 puts you at like 100 or something.
I'm at 230.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, let's talk about if we each are coming with 3 picks that we like this week coming into this one. I'll do the first one if you want to go second. I picked Thiago over Ekitike. The thought process there was kind of what we've talked about of one, we don't know if Wirtz is going to be there. And I think without Wirtz, that makes Ekitike slightly, if not significantly worse. And then we've just seen that West Ham have shown a bit of form recently. So this may not be as good of a fixture as it says on paper. Thiago is one of the most consistent forwards in the game. He has penalties. He has a ton of routes to points, and he's playing the worst defense in the league. So I think I like that one. Although it's worth noting in this that if they draw, you get penalized for that. In this scenario, I would only lose about a point, but I could easily see both of these guys blanking, and then it's or equaling each other's scores. But I picked Thiago over Ekitike.
Yeah, it's a good pick. I agree. I think that Thiago's got the game right. So the only challenge that I maybe have is that Ekitike is more involved generally as like the focal point and they're on a better team, but it's 6th versus 7th. So it's a very courageous pick that you're making.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Yeah. What you got?
All right. So my first round was Semenyo versus Holland. On the topic of courageous picks, I wanted to go for a swinger. So I think that this is a great tool to like, from what if you had to make a bet on a player, like, you know, you have a Holland, you have a Semenyo, and you have to get rid of one to get around that 31 blank. Like, this is a great tool to look at it through.
Yeah, make you decide. Exactly.
Yeah, make you decide. Like, you have to take a side, and I like that. This is really hard, though. I don't feel confident about my decision at all, but I did pick Holland. Nice. I just think it's because he's the striker. Like, he's Holland. He's the monster boy. He's the robot. He's a little out of form, but I think you could say that whole team's been out of form in the same way that the whole Prem's been out of form. So, like, it's not.
And let's also put it in context of when we say Holland is out of form. What does that mean? It means he's returned in his last 4.
Right. We're mad he's not getting hat tricks.
Right. He's returned he's 3 assists in 4.
The dude's so good that like averaging a goal a game is underperforming.
Right. He's had 2 goals, 3 assists in his last 4. So he's out of form. He's washed. But yeah, I agree with that pick. I think, you know, it seems to be a little bit of how Pep chooses to use Semenyo. It seemed like a couple games ago he was really, really focally attacking, was pushing forward, and last game he was a little bit more invisible. So I think it probably just has to do with tactics, game in and game out. But what you can rely on is Holland. I just think it's the more reliable pick, and I don't think it's all that much of a hot take necessarily, but the fact that this is a 60-40 split tells you that a lot of people are going the other way. I would agree with you on that one.
Yeah, it's a surprisingly tough battle on the face of it, but when I just think about it's kind of like a routes to points thing, and it's just like when Holland has the most routes to points, you know?
Yeah. My next one is Rice over Rodgers, which is probably ironic considering I just sold Rice. But
interesting. This was hard. I was looking at this one.
This one is tricky, and I could see it going either way. My reasoning for this is we've established that Rodgers is a blank or go to the moon type player. And Rice is the opposite of that. He's Mr. Consistent. He does still have potential where he could return against Chelsea. You know, it's not like when we look at Chelsea, we say, oh, what a stout defense, as you unfortunately know. So I think, I think he has some potential to honestly return. And now that I'm saying this out loud, I'm really regretting selling him. He has some potential to return against Chelsea. And I think there's just as good a chance that Rodgers blanks as it is he goes nuclear. We've seen Aston Villa as a general attack have struggled over the last few weeks as well. So I feel somewhat confident in that, but of course that means Rodgers will score the 40-yard banger. So
I just have more confidence in the Arsenal attack too. Like as a Villa owner, they're so inconsistent, man. It's weird. Yeah. Like the fact that they're third when I feel like they never score is so strange. Yeah. 100%. So I agree with the Rice. I have both, so I want this to be like a 13 versus 14 point game.
Yeah. 100%.
Like, lots of goals from those guys.
Yeah. 100%. Who do you have next?
My next one, João Pedro versus Watkins.
Nice.
I wanted to go for a little bit of a differential. I don't think anybody is seriously considering Watkins, but because I think that it's all the way towards the bottom. I don't think anyone's like seriously considering Watkins because he's so expensive. Like he's probably got relatively low ownership. But in terms of this week, you're thinking about João Pedro, who's been the better player of the season, I think almost inarguably, but he's playing Arsenal. And Arsenal have looked inconsistent, but Chelsea haven't looked amazing. As the owner of him the past 4 weeks, I was having heart palpitations in most games because of how many points he lucked into. Like if he hadn't gotten the double penalty assist on Cole Palmer, and if there wasn't the 94th minute Enzo to João Pedro goals, I could have very well gained 0 rank by bringing in these Chelsea players. So João Pedro's been returning a lot. I picked Watkins on this.
Okay. I thought maybe you were going to say João Pedro, and I was going to be like, no, big disagree. But
no. I picked Watkins, and I don't think he's going to be highly owned from an FPL perspective, but on a 1-game basis, I think Watkins is going to pull this one out.
I like that. My only detractor on this is I've been punished the last couple of weeks when I've made a pick and then it's stalemate. It's a draw. They both score the same amount of points. I could see both of these guys blanking this weekend, and that wouldn't surprise me at all.
Oh, I could see a 2 versus a 2.
Yeah.
Or I don't know. I'm also trying not to be like the next Skip Bayless, like keep my takes reasonable.
Yeah. My last one is Holland versus Ekitike. I feel like we talked about both of these guys already, so we can stick with it. But yeah, I think Holland over Ekitike. That being said, something we didn't talk about that we really should have is that both of us had captaincy on Thiago over Holland this week. Talk me through that. I feel like we forget to talk about captaincy because for so much of this season it was auto Holland.
Yeah, it was like all last season too. There's not actually a lot to talk about. I did Jeppe was my captain last week, and I transferred him out for Thiago, so it stayed. Yeah. I did look at it. I did say I'm actually comfortable leaving it there, but I can't say that I've landed there because Leeds away are again so bad. Let me see if I can pull up a home versus away Prem form table. Last time I looked at this, which is admittedly a couple weeks ago, they were like 18th away, like one of the worst teams. Yeah, they still are 18th away. And this is City, who actually are back in the title fight now. Actually, have a lot.
Oh, wait, 18th away? You mean like when Leeds plays away? Because this is Leeds at home. This will be City is visiting Leeds.
I've been playing FPL for a long time, and I still can't read the diagram.
Yeah, that means Holland is away at Leeds. So like Leeds is at home.
All right. Well, this is easy. Just take everything I said in the past 2 minutes and flip it.
And put it on Thiago.
Put it on Thiago. So maybe that is all right. I was arguing the case for Thiago.
Well, but this is like, I think it was really close. Like I was debating this the other day, and I'm the same as you, where it's like the chip is temporarily there. I think it's also for me, again, as somebody who's really trying to gain rank, like this could be an opportunity to do so. I'm sure Thiago will be the most bought player in the game, and he's far from low owned, but he's certainly not at the levels of Holland. So captaining him presents an opportunity. That being said, Holland will be a huge threat to my rank. So I think it's
just captain Holland because of the threat. Honestly.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think if you're in a place where like you're somewhat satisfied with your rank, it makes sense to go Holland. And yeah, it's back to that. What we always talk about when trying to go against him is it's not only that your pick has to do well, but Holland also has to not do well, or has to do significantly less well. So it's like, I don't want to root against Holland against Leeds because I do think he's going to have potentially a huge game. So I don't love it in that sense, but I also feel like my back's up against the wall a little bit in terms of needing to pick somewhat of a differential. So yeah, as I'm saying it out loud, I'm like, it's uncertain, but I like when I keep being in last in our fucking mini and being damn near 1 million ranked and then being like, well, I'm Captain Holland this week. I'm like, that feels so stupid. Like, I feel like I really should try to go against the grain a little bit. So
yeah, I would argue that going with the grain
doesn't help, doesn't benefit me.
No, it doesn't. I think at this point in the season, it's about not hemorrhaging, right? Like, you just try not to lose rank.
Yeah, but like, what am I trying not to lose rank? I'm at damn near 1 million right now. Like,
yeah,
if I finish the season at 900K or 1 million, it's the same outcome to me.
This is awesome. I've gotten up into the point where my rank matters now, and I'm like, ooh, look at me. I get to talk about like high level strategy after languishing in 700K all season.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I mean, to your point though, like it takes just one good week, right? Like, and I could be back in it, so maybe I'm overdoing it with the rank. I don't know, but I
mean, I don't think that it's as far as you think. Like, there was 1 week where I was 500K and then dropped to 800K, like in the same week, in between 1 week.
Yeah, I'll have to check. Anyway, what is your third matchup? We didn't get to that.
Okay, I put my money where my mouth is on this one. I did Wilson versus Ryan.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, swinging out big this one. So next week when I'm rank 1,000, because I got all of these wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Wilson versus Ryan, and you picked Wilson?
I picked Wilson.
I think I mean, that is putting your money where your mouth is. The Tottenham fans saying they're going to get shelled.
Is that who they're playing this week? Then I definitely picked Wilson.
Yeah. They're playing Tottenham. See, the thing is, as somebody who's owned Wilson for a long time, Fulham are pretty bad. Like, offensively, they play a lot of low event games. Mm-hmm. So that's the only flip side with Harry Wilson is he's similar to Rodgers in that sense, is pretty likely to blank in a lot of weeks as well. So I don't know. I think this one's pretty close. Sunderland aren't too bad defensively though, so I think that's a fair counter. I just saw Arsenal put up 4 on.
I agree with that. like 100%. Like Sunderland aren't too bad defensively; they're 10th. But the reason I landed on Wilson was just because every time I watch Wilson, I'm like, that dude is so good. He's so involved, and even when he blanks, he like looks good. Like he's passing the eye test in such a big way. And I watched Ryan last week because I was like, all right, a lot of people are talking about him. I gotta like sit down and like look at this guy.
Yeah.
And there's this one run that's like ingrained in my mind where he got the ball like at midfield and ran it all the way and got a great shot. And I was like, wow, that was a great run by him.
Yeah.
This guy's talented. And also, he didn't get pressured a single time in that entire run. He kind of like walked the ball to midfield to the point where I was like, it looks like a shipping channel with the buoys on the sides, except the buoys were the defenders. I was like, where is everybody?
Yeah.
So like, I trust him less. And
and ironically, that was probably Bournemouth's only chance of the game. And I mean that genuinely. Like they had like 0.6 XG all game. So I actually know the chance you're talking about. I saw that too. And it's like, yeah, I could just as easily see him dudding for the rest of the season as continuing to do well. Whereas Wilson, I think it's a better bet. But the tricky thing of this game is it's a 1 week basis, right? Whereas FPL is a little bit more long-term. This is like over 1 week. Is it going to happen? So I think it's a fair bet, but I think it's close.
Other things, I think you got to like remove the name from it too. And like for me, Tottenham I had this debate with a friend the other day because I say like 11 injuries and he's like, well, not all of those are starters. I'm like, that's a valid point. But like, if we have 11 injuries, I think we counted like 7 are first team players. And so
that's fair.
That sucked in the Arsenal game. But when you're losing greater than half of your 11, excluding the goalie, like we're missing 70% of our outfield, our starting outfield. Like
that's good context.
I think that it's not infeasible that I have a ton of respect for Marco Silva as the Fulham coach too. And I feel like he's a little bit limited by the players he has in some senses because all the Fulham guys are like decent. I think it's like, that's exactly what they are. They're just decent. And I just think that team's altogether a little more put together right now. Yeah. And that's why I went this one.
For sure. Let's look back just for fun at last week, what I picked.
Hey, what did you pick? I'm really curious. So Wilson over Alderete.
Oh, wait, this is hang on. This isn't me. My voted. Oh, I did a lot of picks against Bruno G because I knew he wasn't playing and they were highly voted and then they canceled them. So it's good to know that this game works. Like that's good that that's, cool. That's how that works. I picked Ekatike over Bowen, RIP, and Bowen got DEFCONs. So that
was
sucks.
Like
that
4 versus 2.
Yeah, so like that shows you I lost 17 points in rank on that. So yeah, 4 versus 2. I picked Holland over Ryan, which feels like just duh. And then Holland over Watkins. I picked a lot of over Watkins. Like I didn't think he was going to do too well last week, and that worked out. Bruno over Bumo failed. Thiago over Bowen failed.
I didn't talk about this. Is a great way to just look at like a lot of common problems trends. Managers are having. I like this a lot. A lot of people don't have Bumo. A lot of people aren't looking to get Bumo. I've personally found that a little bit crazy because he's been one of the most consistent forwards since he's returned. Like looking at him real quickly. I gotta quickly reopen it. I closed his.
I can pull it up.
Just, I think he's like, I don't want to speak incorrectly, but I'm fairly certain he's returned in like 5 out of the last 6 or something crazy like that.
He's like, returned in 4 out of the last. Oh yeah, 5 out of the last 6. You're right. Yeah.
Yep.
Correct.
So like that's pretty crazy. And then the floor on those returns is 6. I was like, that's a good asset. I feel no need to transfer him out. I'm surprised more people don't have.
100%. Yeah.
But anyways, back to what you're saying.
No, honestly, and that's good context as somebody who was like toying with going Bumo to Wirtz. Like it just feels like, why am I trying to get rid of a player who's doing really well? Yeah. And I think if anything, it should be the conversation of, all right, Bruno Fernandes might be ironically at that point again where he's not worth his value.
So I was thinking, like, if Bruno continues to be inconsistent, like he's got a couple 10s in there, but if for some reason the fixtures get bad and you need to give way on one, maybe it's Bruno that you get rid of and keep Bumo.
Yep. Yeah, we're gonna have to see. Like, I've been having what you said about Carrick echoing in my ears of like, yeah, they've been doing really well since he came in, but how long before teams figure out, this is a new coach. Oh, okay, here's how he's going to set them up and are able to shut it down. And that's what's happened the last couple of weeks. So
I mean, the YouTube videos came out a day after. So if it's your job to look at this in the highest sporting level, I imagine they got a pretty good beat on it. That being said, they good enough players to where it might not matter. I've been really impressed by the Carrick United.
Yeah,
but it's still something and their fixtures aren't amazing in the next couple.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think that's a fair one. nothing else really to note last week. Like I've gone pretty conservative with a lot of my picks in that sense, but I got 2 huge ones incorrect here in Thiago over Bowen, where I lost 10, and then because he was a relatively heavy favorite, and what have you, and then Ekatike over Bowen. So
did you do all of them?
What do you
last
mean?
week? Like I'm trying to figure out how many I need to do to be on parity with you next week.
No, it doesn't. Like that's the thing. You can play it as few or as many as you want, right? Okay, like you were looking at it right in the leaderboard. You're at 1,000 points and you're in 100th place. Like that's pretty good. That's actually pretty good. So you could just pick one thing that you're really confident in and go forward with it like that, or you could be like, I think this top player here, like he has 691 total votes. Like clearly he's just going balls to the wall and it's working for him, but I don't know if that's true for everybody, right?
I think this is the biggest don't gamble advertisement ever.
100%.
The guy who's like the significant outlier is at 55% accuracy. Number 2 is 51.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Like last week, I think I was at like 85% accuracy. I was like, oh, this shit's easy. And then, it came right back down. So
Sharp would be swearing at me, but
yeah, 100%. No, but like the accuracy is so real. Like look at this average accuracy is 41%.
41%.
So to your point, it does benefit you to just only pick the ones you're really certain in.
I think that means we just got to pick the opposite of what we think. Like if you're convinced and you have a track record of doing badly, just stake your claim and then
we should just ask Sharp. Really, that's what we should do. Ask Sharp who he's feeling. All right. Well, I think that wraps it up for me. Do you have anything else you want to touch on? Obviously, we got captaincy stuff out of the way. We'll still be debating that. Also, on your point, I am 45 points back of 300K.
Yeah.
So if that puts into perspective for you how much I need to gain to get to where you are, like I think that maybe leads me to Thiago captaincy.
Really? That's your conclusion? My conclusion would be that that's still achievable, and then you want to play it right because you have your wild card, and mixed into that 45 points are people like me who don't have the wild card, and that could still turn out to be a huge mistake.
Yeah. I just worry that I'm going to get into this template time period and not be able to make big strides. But you're right. There's a lot of people who have like done alternate strategies who are probably ahead of me right now.
I don't have the right answer because these are all the debates that I'm having. I'm just on the opposite side of it. Like ultimately you got to do what you feel confident in. But I'm just playing devil's advocate, I suppose, just giving you things to think about.
Dude, Sharp is so funny. He just sent his bus team. He's benching Wilson in favor of Hill.
Let's pull up his Gameweek review team just to put some context on that.
Yes. He's benching Wilson this week, who's playing Tottenham, in favor of Hill, who's playing Sunderland. Otherwise, it's everything that we said.
So I think we were saying all season Sharp's always right. What I think we've learned in recent weeks is based on the Sharp form table, you should absolutely be starting anyone Sharp benches. Therefore, Wilson is the right move.
Yeah, that's true, dude. His bench has been going crazy.
I'm not going to lie. In the last 5 weeks, I think he legitimately has put 100 points on his bench.
Yeah, he's... yeah. Yeah, that's true. He's been having a rough time of it.
All right. I don't think there's a better way to close it off than that.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we'll catch you guys next week after what is inevitably going to be a fat red arrow for Game Week 28, and we'll catch you guys ahead of Game Week 29. Cheers.
See you.